Good morning. My name is Gene Chan, hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waiters is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website at sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet, so if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider one item, order number 210405, to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 78 Haight Street. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make a determination. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determination. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. There is no time limit for this presentation. Then I will allow the property owner or the applicant to speak. Then any member of the public who wants to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. So if you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you are a member of the public who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature if you're on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you are dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate you're raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If on your phone and you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. At this time, we will open the hearing to public comments. Members of the public may make comments on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Are there any public comments at this time? Mr. Nolte?
Yes, I would like that there be no rebuttals in this hearing because it only prolongs it and also doesn't give time for what you just said. It doesn't help the when people talk and don't give everybody response time for the whatever the rebuttals are during the hearing. So I requested no rebuttals during the hearing because it's not fair when one party says something and the other parties don't get to say it too, or to respond to those issues that were raised. Thank you. And that's it.
Thank you. Just to clarify, there are no rebuttals. Only the standard 3 minutes, and you are only allowed to speak once. Thank you. Okay, if there are no other public comments, first item on today's agenda, order number 210405, to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 78 Haight Street. Staff approved the submittal Staff approved the application and the public protested. May I have Public Works make its presentation?
Are you seeing the main slide or the presenter view?
The main slide.
Okay, good. I've had trouble with just the presenter view. Anyway, so this is to hold a hearing for 78 Haight Street. So we always go through our strategic objectives, and our number one goal is to ensure a safe, clean, and green infrastructure in the public right of way. This means balancing infrastructure with green infrastructure with non-green infrastructure, and balancing the safety and needs of a growing and evolving city. And this means very large housing projects, but also trying to replace trees and grow new trees. This is just our street tree pruning cycle. It's not as relevant here because we're talking about a tree removal permit where the applicant will be required to replace the tree. But just so everyone's clear, a tree ordinance establishes authorization and standards for addressing a wide range of issues regarding trees, and our urban forestry ordinance is codified under Article 16 of the Public Works Code. That gives us the authority to approve and remove trees, and also for the public to protest, which is why we're here. And a tree removal permit is required to remove street, significant, and landmark trees. And we have updates to our code where we have to have a delayed replacement report, replace a tree within 6 months. If we don't do that, we have to put it on the delayed replacement report. It's not relevant here because it's a permit, and that is not applicable to permit applications. But in this case, also, the owner must pay the difference between the appraised value of the subject tree minus the replacement tree. So the standard in lieu fee for a 24-inch box is $2,431. So if they can't replace, let's say, like a 10-inch diameter tree, which appraises for like $5,000, they would be on the hook for the remaining balance. So we have a variety of tree removal criteria. It's not rigid. We have to consider each site separately. We try to be as consistent as possible, but we also want to make sure we're not rubber stamping anything by just blindly going through a criteria. In this case, the tree would be destabilized by construction and there's no feasible workaround. So it's to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 78 Haight Street, and we approved the removal and the public protested. And it's sometimes called 78, sometimes 80 Haight Street. It's but there's a tree ID, and the species is an ornamental pear, Pyrus calleariana. They're known for very poor structure. In San Francisco, they don't get that big because we don't have adequate cold weather for them to have adequate bud development. So they just stay really small and they don't put on a lot of growth. Whereas in places like New York, they have massive Callery pear. Their Callery pear are like our ficus. They're massive and they need a lot of maintenance. They have really poor structure. But in our case, luckily this tree is really small. It hasn't really put on much growth. It has not changed since we were last looking at this tree in 2020. In fact, it's declined, and that's because it has fire blight. And fire blight is a fungus that infects the Pyrus genus. It's really unfortunate because we have a different Pyrus called evergreen pear that we like. We were replacing these with, but unfortunately, because we have a very mild climate, a lot of deciduous trees from Europe and the East Coast just don't do well here. The applicant applied to remove this tree and it was denied at the last hearing. They tried to work around it and they did not appeal it. And they're getting to the point where the workaround for this tree would cost about $40,000. And based on this tree's declining condition, its size and structure, it does not appraise for more than the in lieu fee or a 24-inch box tree. It can be replaced in place. So we approved it. So here you can see on the left, to be fair, this photo on the left is in March, and so trees they are just leafing out. But you can see in a month later in April, it just, no, actually it's only a couple of weeks. You can still see in these sort of like browning leaves, and the fact that there's a cluster of leaves here on the left where the door is, and they're all brown. You don't see that in the springtime. You see that in the fall if the tree is just losing its leaves. That is a sign of fire blight. Like the living leaves have been killed. So to be fair, it is early in the spring, but also you can see that the branches don't have any new shoot growth, and there's fire blight on the buds. So the tree is going to be replaced. They do need to do a bunch of trenching here in the sidewalk and change the grade. That'll destabilize the tree. I mean, we have to face the fact that this is like a large housing project. It is sponsored by the mayor's office, sponsored as in it's like a mayor's office of housing. So it's going to be affordable housing. It's a priority project. These really large projects have really thin margins. That $40,000 workaround is really tight when you're talking about affordable housing. And there has to be trenching for utilities. And you also have to remember that the city is going away from gas. So we're adding a lot more electric infrastructure too. But it can be replaced. They just need to trench near and around the trees to put the utilities in. So they're going to replace it with a 36-inch box size tree. It's going to be a Catalina ironwood, which I love. That tree will grow twice as large, if not larger, than the current pear tree that's there. And there's one that's like 70 feet tall off of Castro Street, or not Castro. It's like off of Market, but if anybody wants to know which tree I'm talking about, they can email our inbox. They grow really large. They're well suited to the climate here, especially in the face of climate change where we're dealing with warmer summers in San Francisco. It's similar to the Catalina Islands down south. So I think that's a really good choice for this site. Yeah, so this is just showing that there's also going to be an accessible loading zone nearby, which requires a lot of regrading to make sure that the sidewalk is accessible for people getting in and out of paratransit vehicles. And that concludes 78 Haight Street and why we approve the removal of the tree this time around.
Thank you. I had a quick question. Do we know where the sewer lateral is going?
It looks like on the left, so you see where this red circle is.
Okay.
All the way to the left, I see something that says CL, and it usually means clean out. So I believe it's going. Actually, it's kind of well planned because you can't have a tree within 25 feet of an intersection, and then they put the laterals there. So that's kind of a relief because usually we see utilities all over the place, whatever works for the hookup. And then it's like, oh, but then you also can't have a tree within 25 feet of the intersection. So in this case, they kind of bundled the utility and spacing conflicts.
Okay, so it's far enough away from the tree roots at this point.
Yeah, yeah. And usually with like new construction, new development, we don't see as many root intrusion issues.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Mhm. Sorry, apparently I misread CL and it means the center line of dimension. So I'm not sure where the sewer is. I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Mr. Chan, if you're speaking, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yes. Looks like Rob has his hand raised.
Are you calling for the applicant? We didn't hear anything you said, so.
Oh, yeah, I was calling for the applicant, sorry.
Okay.
So it sounds like it looks like it's probably Rob.
Yep. Hello, hopefully I can be heard. So I'm the contractor. The sewer and storm is actually off of Rose. So it's on the north end of the project. So if you're familiar with the logistics, if you're looking north on Octavia, then on the south, so that corner right there would be the, let's call that the southwest corner. So you have Haight running east and west and Octavia heading north, and then you would meet up with Rose, and that's where you'll find the storm and sewer.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here today? Okay, Shreya, please go ahead.
Hi, yes, I'm with the owner.
Excuse me, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yes, I'm the applicant. I work
Okay.
for the owner.
Okay. You have 3 minutes.
I think the main reasoning for us is I think like Susan kind of mentioned, we plan to replace the tree, and our goal is to, you know, bring back that one tree. The construction utility work is really conflicting with that existing tree on Haight Street, and allowing us to remove it would really save us $40,000 in construction costs. The workaround related to kind of the utilities is really really expensive, and this is an affordable housing project. It's 100% affordable housing project, which will build 63 units for low-income households, including transition age youth. And like saving dollars on our budget would be a big advantage to the project. So we really urge you to consider this request.
Thank you. What utilities are going on that corner or block face?
We have electrical coming from Haight, all the way from Goff, which is coming up Haight and then going into our site. So that will be kind of the main utilities.
Okay, so that vault is there already, and it's already hooked up, right?
Correct. So the main thing is there's a need to like there'll be a lot of trenching in that area. So I think that's number one. That's like the first reason. And then the second reason is we also need space to build our scaffold so the building can go up. It is a 7.5-story building, which will be going up on the site. So it conflicts with the utilities and the scaffolding area. And we would have to really do a lot of work if we were to protect the tree while we are doing construction.
Sure. What utilities are you trenching for over there?
Rob can probably speak to that a little bit better. He's the contractor. So I'll kind of let him chat about that.
Okay, Rob, can you please speak to that? What utilities are you trenching for?
So we have our electrical. We've got actually some temp power coming across in this area. So that's coming across Haight Street, and then up Haight Street, we have our temp power. So that whole area is destabilized as well. We're bringing in our joint trench, which has low voltage for cable and telephone, city fiber. As well, that area was initially planned for tree removal because of the tight logistics of the site. There's labor involved in moving fence lines so that we can move around the tree with dumpsters and other cartage. So there's, on top of the bridging of the scaffold and the protection and maintenance of the protection of the tree, there's some logistical labor costs. And then specific to your question of the utilities, those would be pretty much all dry utilities, about 5 different types, all coming through that area.
Okay. And the joint trench is going to be on the sidewalk?
It's coming across and onto the sidewalk, yeah.
Okay.
Into the building.
And then logistic wise, how's the access into and out of the site? Where is that located? Is that on Haight or on Octavia?
Yeah, so we have we originally planned for access points, coming through where that tree is. We were going to have dumpsters and other things stationed there, so that we could come in and out with maintaining and swapping out there. So now we have to put labor into working around that area. But there's an entrance on Rose Street that we have.
Is that also going to be your exit or just an entrance?
That serves as both in and out. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's because we've adjusted, for this tree. We originally intended to have kind of 2 access points.
Okay. Your temp power, is that going to be on a pedestal or on a sidewalk, inside the site?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be underground?
It's going to be on the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right. Now I'm going to call on the public. The public can speak. Please raise your hand. I see Kim Butler.
Hello, I'm actually Kim Butler with Paulette Taggart Architects. I'm the architect for this project. Sorry, I just wanted to add to the base information that a lot of the work on the sidewalk here will also be to make it ADA compliant. The main entrance to the building is on Haight Street, right to the left of the tree. And the current sidewalk does not meet ADA standards, and so we need to do regrading in order to allow our building to be accessible. So I just wanted to bring that up as another important aspect of the work going on in this area.
Sure, thanks. Just a follow-up question. You mentioned grading, regrading. What's the elevation change?
That exists currently, or
Well, from existing to new, you have to regrade. So is that a 1 inch
Yeah.
difference, or is it a 3 inch difference?
I will have to calculate from my civil drawings. If you could come back to me, I can get that information for you.
Sure. Sure. Thank you. Okay, John Nolte.
Good morning. So I guess this is now public comment and no more other people are going to be speaking. So my issue is that this is the second hearing. All this information was available on the first hearing where they removed the rest of the trees on Haight and Octavia, and they kept this one tree here. So therefore, I see this as duplication of hearings, and also nothing has really changed. All I'm hearing is that they have conflicts now, but those conflicts existed. If they were existing, they should have existed at the first hearing when they decided the other trees. And also, I hear that they have 2 exits. Well, yes, they have more than actually 2 exits. They're using the corner of Haight and at the corner on the corner here where the street pole is at. They're coming in through that direction too, so they don't really need where this tree is at. So, you know, because I've actually seen the trucks coming in and out of there. So I have issue with the trees to stay. It's already protected. It's already been. It doesn't have currently this orange thing around it, as is pointed in this picture, because this is a Google picture of it some time ago when this was dated. Currently, there's no thing, and then also right now, because of the construction, the workers are sitting there eating their food and also their stuff piled around the bottom base of this tree. So I find it kind of annoying because they built a fence on the other side of the tree so that you cannot see the tree, as you can see this in this Google presentation. They are not even actually showing you current pictures of the location because this is a Google presentation by TNDC. TNDC has had a bad record of most of its properties of never maintaining trees. They built a new property in the Tenderloin, and 4 of the trees are dying right now, and that's with less than the 3 years of the project finishing. So I find that TNC is a poor steward when it comes to trees and finds excuses why to take out trees, and also doesn't maintain the trees when they do put them in. They don't water them and they're dying. I put them in a list too some time ago. Apparently they have not responded to those. So, and that was on Larkin Street and Golden
30
Gate.
seconds.
That property there is on both sides of the property, trees are dying. So that's just one example of one TNC building. There are others. I don't want to go down a list, but the thing is, this property, since they were developing it and managing this property, they're poor stewards when it comes to trees, and their history is already noted by the city on how poorly they treat trees in San Francisco, street trees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Nolte.
Yes, just for reference, TNDC stands for Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation. And the word development in their name means that's how they get much of their income to run as a corporation. They don't make a lot of money once they build these their properties and do management of the properties, because management fees of the properties are not their main source of income. It's through development that they make a lot. If you were to look at their board of directors, many of the people sitting on the board are their people that they end up having to work with through development. So anyway, just a little history of the organization. As the previous speaker mentioned, there's always been a problem with once you plant a tree, how long does it last? And will it last the full 3 years while the developer is supposed to steward a tree? And then whether or not they have the funds to replace the tree during the 3 years. And they, many times the developer only cares about making it look pretty in drawings, doing presentations. But when it comes down to the actual, once it's developed, then it's up to the management of the property to fulfill any of the goals. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. So here in this particular project, they knew what they were getting into when they created the, went to the planning commission, and as the previous speaker said, they already have exit points, and they're not doing a very good job of protecting the tree that's currently there. They could do better. I guess really what's being said here by the public is this developer could do better. And should do better, especially when they're using multiple sources. They usually, every time they do a development, there's multiple
30 seconds.
multiple sources of income, and they have to be answerable to where that money comes from. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go back to Kim Butler. Do you have information on the elevation change?
Hi, yes. So the elevation change varies, from just half an inch to not at all to, up to about 3 or 4 inches, because what we need to do at the entrance is kind of flatten out where our main entry is, so that we're providing an accessible entry path. And then we will dip back down as we near the neighboring property. So it varies all along that sidewalk how much we're changing it. But essentially the goal is to flatten it out a little bit at our main entry, to provide that accessible entrance.
And that's where the 3 or 4 inches is coming from?
Yeah, that's where we can vary up to that amount.
Is that lowering or
raising in this
That's raising?
case? Yeah,
okay.
raising as we get closer to the tree.
Okay.
And then we will, we're changing the slope as we go down to the neighboring property to meet them where they're at now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Susan, I have a quick question about the fire blight.
Yep.
Is that's a disease of the tree?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's not going to go away.
No, there's no cure for it. It's way too late for this tree. Like I actually very much appreciate the line of questioning when it comes to working around trees and development, from both you and the protesters. But if I'm being completely honest, I would personally probably post this tree for removal if I knew that there's just going to be a replacement coming.
Yes.
And there is. because it's just disease. It's not putting on any new growth. And the Catalina ironwood, I have one in my house, and it's put on 3 feet in a year.
Okay.
They're just really fast growing and drought tolerant. They're really tolerant to like this kind of this frequent sun. Like you can see it's June, it's usually pretty foggy in San Francisco, but not here.
Sure.
Yeah, so and it's south facing, which my house is too, and the Catalina ironwood's grown like 3 feet. So that the fire blight to me just makes the approval more compelling.
Yes, yes. Okay, great. Question for Shreya. The tree is not going to be planted in a enclosed basin, am I correct?
I think you're correct. Kim may be better suited to answer that. I think the drawings have a detail.
Okay. Okay, so within the 3 years establishment period, if the tree does, not thrive, there is a commitment or funds set aside to replace the tree?
We can certainly make that happen. We can certainly set aside a fund for tree replacement if that does not happen. Generally speaking, like we are an owner, manager, and a service provider. So, we own the building for the long term. So
Mhm.
if something was to happen like that, then I think TNDC would pay for the tree replacement in the property frontage. I think somebody mentioned our 555 Larkin project, which recently finished in the public comment.
Mhm.
And I think there were heavy winds and that tree was, not doing well. And so that is like something that the development team and property management would work together to come back and replant or take the necessary action so that, we are fulfilling our commitment to replace the tree.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I guess back to Kim Butler. The tree is not going to be planted in an enclosed tree basin, correct?
No, it will be replaced in kind, so it will be the street
So basically free
basin,
drain.
but yes, but I believe we have a grate over it.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? If you have spoken, you will not be allowed to speak again. Okay. If there are no more public comments, I will close this hearing. And I will make my recommendations to the director. The hearing is now closed. Thank you and have a good day.